we're going to do it in less than 130 lines, boys. That's right, less than 130 lines. And they actually work. Check this out. Config off, load, config on, load. Bam. As you can see, it's working perfectly fine. And we even have all of them right here in our directory. Check this out. Bam. Works perfectly. So, you guys ready for this? Let's jump right in. Configs are basically just a way to store and retrieve data for your cheat settings and stuff like that. So an example of this is if I have this aimbot on, then I want to load my other config to turn it off. So this one right here, then you can see it's off and it sets the settings to something else. So that's exactly what configs are. Now, why do you need them? Well, it's just easier to manage. And instead of turning on all your settings manually, you just press on a config and then you press load. And that's pretty much it. Alright, so you boys now understand what configs are and why you need them. Let's go through structure and control flow. So the way this is all going to work is here we have our namespace configs with all of our variables here. All of these variables will be used in our ImGui menu to display our configs. We'll be able to load, save, and delete them and create new ones. So knowing all of this information, I'm going to explain to you now how this all works. So first, we need to fill up this list for our ImGui menu, but we also need a place to store our configs. That's where this guided hacking configs folder comes in the program data area. So here, the refresh function handles all of that. So the refresh function basically goes through all the files in that directory that gets created, the base path one. We get the file name of each file in there, check if it has a JSON file extension. If it does, then we remove the .json part and just have the file name, then we push it back into the list. Now for loading the file, we take the base path, so it would be the guided hacking configs folder, then we add the name of our file and then add the JSON extension. Check if it exists. If it does, then we'll read the file, extract all the data from here, and set our global variables here, and then refresh all the configs. Then for save, it's pretty much the opposite thing. We basically create a new file here, and we set all the stuff that we're saving to that file, so the values of each of these global variables. We output it, check if it exists. If it does, then we're going to refresh, and then remove. It's pretty simplistic. You basically find the file, check if it exists. If it does, remove it, refresh the configs. So now we're going to get into implementing this in our little ImGui menu. Alright boys, so the first thing we gotta do is we gotta call our configs refresh function. So we're gonna call that function there, so we load up all of our configs as soon as our ImGui menu is initialized. Now what we're gonna do after that is we're gonna just start adding some text. So here, we're gonna put the text, ImGui text. We're gonna do configs, then we'll do ImGui text, aimbot enabled equals %s. And we'll do aimbot enabled, yes, and then no. Then we'll do the smooth one. So we'll do aimbot smooth equals %i, aimbot smooth. Then we'll do ImGui checkbox. We'll do aimbot enabled and aimbot enabled. Then we'll do ImGui slider int. Then we'll do aimbot smooth 1. And we'll do and aimbot smooth 0 to 50. Now what we're going to do is make it so we can select our configs and loop through all of them. So we'll do configs list dot size. Then we'll do for int I equals 0. Balance and size I plus plus. Auto config name equals configs list I. Then we'll do bool selected equals I equals configs selected config. Then we'll do if ImGui selectable. This is where we can select it. We'll do config name cstr. Then we'll do and selected. Then we'll do config selected equals I. If selected, ImGui set item default focus. No, not that one. Default focus. Cool. So now what we can do after that is we can get our config showing up. So if we start this up, it should show up here. Cool. As you can see, there's our two configs right there. We have our aimbot enabled, and we have this value here. So now let's make our button and input text. So we'll do static char buffer 64 ImGui push and width ImGui get content region available.x. We're gonna pop the width. Then we're gonna do ImGui input text with hint. So before you type anything, you'll say like enter config name. I'm gonna do input text. Then we'll put config name. Then we'll do buffer, sizing buffer. Now we'll do if ImGui button load. Sorry, ImGui get content available the x divided by 4. Because we're gonna have 4 buttons. Then if storyline buffer is greater than 1, configs load. And we'll do buffer. Add one more bracket here. Else, we're just going to load the current selected config. So we'll do configs list configs selected config. Now we'll list as well. I'll do same line 0 1. Gonna copy that. Then we're going to do save. Save. We're going to kind of delete one here. Delete. So this has to be changed to 3, 2. We're going to type remove. And then we'll do our last one here, the refresh one. So now we'll do refresh. And now all we have to do here is just config refresh. Now let's test it out, see if it works. Alright boys, so here we go. Oh, I actually need to change that. Hold on. Let's just remove the divide here. Start it up again. Cool. So here's all of our configs. Config off. We'll load config on first. As you can see, it shows aimbot enabled, and then it's 18. Now we'll do config off, and there we go. Now it's off. And let's create a new config, and we'll just have this to on, and we'll set this to 2, and we'll do number 2. Save that one. Cool. Now what we're going to do is load config off, and number 2. There it is. Works. So now, if we wanted to, let's say, add a brand new config here, let's just do test.json like that. Now what we can do, refresh, and there we go. Now we can delete this one, we can delete this one, and there we go. That's it, guys. So that's really all there is to configs. I'll quickly summarize what's going on here. So basically, what's going on here is we refresh all of our configs as soon as our ImGui menu is initialized. So right here, we load up all of our configs as soon as our program starts or when our ImGui menu is initialized. Then after that, what we do is while the ImGui menu is rendering, we go through all the current configs. We set up an input text. So if we want to load the config by just typing the name of it out, then you can do that. Or, you know, if you want to create a config, you'd obviously have to type in the name. And then here in all these functions right here where the buttons are, if there's any text in the input text, then we'll load the config that's in the input text. Else, we're just going to load the current config that we've selected. And it's pretty much the same for all these other functions. And then the refresh function just allows you to refresh all the current configs in the folder. So that's pretty much it, guys. So there's not really anything else to it other than that. So it's very self-explanatory, very simple. And as you can see, it's all done in literally less than 130 lines of code. So I hope you guys found this video resourceful and you enjoyed it. So if you want to get this menu and all the source code, it will be available on our website, guidedhacking.com. So we look forward to seeing you soon.